than others, but none of it should be taken lightly. Nobody wants to be left with wet knickers if they sneeze, cough or run, or to risk an accident during their most intimate moments. They don't want to live with discomfort or chronic pain, or feel afraid to lift their children or give up a job they love because they can't physically manage it. This is the thing about pelvic floor problems. They creep into every aspect of your life: parenting, work, fitness, body image, relationships, often on top of being an exhausted new mum and sometimes alongside other birth injuries. It's no wonder one study found that women with these conditions were 3 times more likely to have symptoms of depression. If you consider the scale and impact of all this, you'd think it would be common knowledge throughout our lives, that you'd learn about it in school, hear about it in the news, and read about it in the pregnancy books, but you don't. You are, instead, sideswiped by this shocking thing that's happened to a part of your body you know virtually nothing about. Treatments are limited, information is limited, support is limited. You are on your own. In 2018, I did something completely out of character. I decided to share my story on Instagram, anonymously at first, reaching out to anyone who might be able to relate or offer some quiet reassurance. I don't really know what I was expecting, except that I knew there must be others feeling the same way. I was right. Total strangers understood perfectly and started talking about their own experiences. That's when I decided to do something even more out of character. I put my name on it. You can't smash taboos with a paper bag on your head, can you? Also, I'd just turned 40. If I couldn't own it now, when would I ever? I was writing about my wonky vagina in a public forum, and I was terrified. But then I was angry, because here we all were, having these hushed conversations online, quietly suffering, confused and anxious, hiding away and blaming ourselves, even though it happened through no fault of our own. I'm still angry, for lots of reasons. Angry because what if it could be prevented? I came out of surgery after having a baby and a serious perineal tear, yet I had no idea that straining, lifting and everyday exertion could be the last straw for my pelvic floor. How could I? I barely knew what one was. What if I'd left hospital armed with that information? Would my postpartum recovery have been any different? What if I'd gone into hospital armed with that information? Would I have made different choices during the birth? Would I have acted differently through pregnancy? I know it might have happened regardless, but I can't help but wonder. Angry too. Because when it does happen, some women spend years trying to persuade a doctor that things down there aren't right, or are greeted with a shrug and told, "You've had a baby, what do you expect?" Worse than that, in 2020, an inquiry ordered by the UK government, which looked at pelvic mesh implants, found that women with prolapse or stress incontinence had sometimes suffered avoidable harm, their concerns dismissed as women's problems. It's another example of how we have so far to go when it comes to women's health, how not enough is known about conditions that only affect women, how the gender gap in health research is gaping, and how, in the words of Matt Hancock, the UK Health Secretary in 2021, for generations, women have lived with a health and care system that is mostly designed by men for men. That's assuming we even come forward to ask for help, because how do you do that when you're too embarrassed to even mention it? I'm angry because society has taught us that anything to do with our vaginas is shameful and should be hidden away. We're talking centuries of shame, layer upon layer. It's a lot to unpick. And anyway, we would need to have the right words, which we don't. Don't get me wrong, I love a good euphemism, but research suggests that 1 in 3 of us still can't label the vulva on a simple diagram, let alone a urethra. I'll admit I only learned in recent years that what most of us know as a vagina is a vulva. So let's clear this up right now. Your vulva is the external genitals, all the bits on the outside. I made a podcast to try to change things. A place where we could laugh, cry and cringe our way towards recovery or acceptance. A place where we could find trusted information and where stonkingly brave women, you'll meet some of them in this book, could share their stories. I cannot overstate the power in that, in knowing that you're not alone in the world and hearing others express your deepest unspoken thoughts and fears. I'm a radio producer by trade, so I was comfortable with the technical stuff, less so with the speaking about my vagina in public stuff. I'm still working on that, but the response has blown me away. Messages started coming in from around the world and they haven't stopped. Listeners have entrusted me with their own stories. They've told me how they're grieving for their former selves, how they feel aged and isolated, and how they're too embarrassed to discuss it with friends. But they've also told me how hearing from others has given them hope.